I'm not usually the dessert maker around here, but once in a while I get a pretty strong hankering for molasses. I don't know if it's the iron, the calcium, what, but I want it. So I'm gonna make some gingerbread teff cookies. I'll tell you what the teff part of that is in a minute. The first step of making cookies is to cream the butter and sugar together. And I've used one of these nice unrefined sugars that still has the molasses in it, which is going to add more flavor and a little bit more nutrients too. Important first step is to really cream that butter and sugar together. Don't slack off on that at all so that you can't tell one from the other. Then the rest of the wet ingredients that go in here are an egg. Here you go. And I'm going to get that beaten in here. And the molasses, there's about 2 tablespoons of molasses. And fresh ginger root. Yes, gingerbread cookies need fresh ginger root. You know, that powdered ginger compared to fresh ginger root is like nothing. It's like nothing. Okay, and so I'm putting the ginger in now. And my molasses, I'm going to need something to pull that out of there because it's sticky. Did you know in 1917 there was some sort of escape of molasses somewhere, and barrels of molasses, and it killed 7 people. No, I'm not kidding. You got to look it up. You got to trust me on that one. And then vanilla. So what was in here? Butter, the unrefined cane sugar, an egg, molasses, and ginger, fresh ginger, and vanilla. Pretty awesome. Now you could use a hand mixer, but I haven't been able to find ours since we moved. And so that's not an option for me. So I get to feel my arms flap around instead, which is, just a whole lot of fun. Okay, so that's the wet. In the dry ingredients, I have a cup and 2 tablespoons of whole wheat pastry flour, and I'll tell you why the odd measurement is there. And I have freshly ground spices. Yeah, you can buy the pre-ground ones. That's okay, but if you take the whole spice and grind it fresh in like a little spice grinder, a little coffee grinder, the flavor just is at least 3 or 4 times what you get from a pre-ground spice. So the spices in here are cloves, cardamom, cinnamon, and allspice. I knew I could do it. The other flour that goes in here is teff flour. And teff, I'm going to put this in and start mixing these flours and spices together. And the salt and baking soda are also in there. Teff is this teeny tiny grain that is indigenous to Ethiopia. And if you've ever gone to an Ethiopian restaurant and had the bread that's called injera, it's kind of stretchy. That's its like elastic, it's stretchy and sticky, and it's the teff that makes it that way. And so I like to put teff in things like a gingerbread cookie or some other things. I have a friend that uses teff flour in brownies when you want that kind of sticky texture in there, that stretchy texture. So that's that. So that's my dry and that's my wet, and I'm going to start putting those together. Give that another little stir. And here's the deal with cookies. When you're using whole grain flours, you're going to have a softer batter than you are normally used to with white flour and white sugar, because the fiber that's in the whole grain is going to suck up any liquid that's there, and you could end up with kind of a dry, hard cookie if you put too much flour in. So that's why I always start any cookie that I'm making with whole grain flour with less flour than I need, so that I have a little leeway there and I can do it by texture instead of measurement. So the recipe starts with a cup and 2 tablespoons of whole wheat pastry flour and the 1/4 cup of teff flour. And once I get that all mixed up together, I'm going to touch it with moist hands. And if the batter sticks to my hand, then I don't have quite enough flour in there. But if it's malleable, you know, formable into a ball without sticking to my hand, that's the right texture. So I'm going to touch this in a second here and see what I got. It feels a little bit like that's going to be a little, yeah, I can tell just by touching it, it's a little too wet. So you have to be careful with how much flour you add, because if I add too much to this batter, the cookie will get cakey, and I don't want that. I want a thin, one of those kind of soft and stretchy in the middle kind of cookies. So I probably put maybe a tablespoon or two in there, maybe, and let me wet my hands and try that. Okay. Yeah, that's gonna work. Love that. Hey, you look nice. Oh, you can't talk. Oh, you lost your voice. No, how? You know, I've told you before, Jane, you know, when you scream that loud in the car, it really hurts your vocal cords. And you know. Well, didn't Phil called you, right? Did you talk to him? And well, what did he say?
He said, what? What? What?
Oh, no. And then I like to decorate the top with just like a little white chocolate chip, little red cranberry, dried cranberry, you know, just to make it a little more festive. And when they're done, that's what they look like. Oh, Jane, why don't you text him? You know, one of those little smiley face things in there, and then he'll get that you like him, because you do, right?